Welcome to Cardschat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community. Hey everyone, welcome to the community segment of Cardschat Podcast episode number 128. Here's where we turn to you guys, our Cardschat community, to see what questions you want to ask our guests. We have a dedicated thread on the Cardschat forum where we announce who our guests are going to be, including some of the biggest names in poker. So please be sure to send in your questions. If you've already listened to podcast episode number 128, you'll know that our guest this time is four-time WSOP bracelet winner, the Italian pirate, Max Pescatori. Let's see what the Cardschat community wants to ask you. Kun Aguero Cruz has this question for you, Max, and says, you have 4 WSOP bracelets in 4 different variants. Which of those 4 variants do you believe is your best game?
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to Kun Aguero, which he was this year at the World Series. And he showed the bracelet of the main event and did an interview. So that was pretty cool that he came to World Series of Poker now that he's retired.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, realistically, I believe Razz is my best game because I believe that the majority of people don't play correctly. Mm-hmm. And I actually, when I won my bracelet in 5th place, was 5th or 6th, was Eliel Extra. And I remember when he was eliminated, of course, as respect that I have for him, I shake his hand and I say, he's the only one that can beat me. And so I was very happy, sad for him, but very happy that he was eliminated because it's a game. Then, of course, I mean, No Limit is probably my worst game, even if I, have even won like 4 tournaments in Italy, but I don't study it. I don't play it as much, and it's just all the other ones are better. All 3 of them I actually feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean, Limit Omaha in a tournament, I think it's a different kind of animal compared to cash game, so I like it. I used to play on full tilt. They used to have a 30 big blind cap, 30 or 40 big blind cap games. I loved it. And when you learn that, that's perfect translate in a tournament because most of the time you don't have 500 blinds. You have 30, 40. So my game is good in that situation.
Cool.
Stat I Low, of course, it was great. I mean, when I won the bracelet, I won it against Daniel Negreanu that finished 3rd. Stephen Chidwick finished 2nd. So how can I not think I'm great at that game when I beat those 2 guys?
Cool, very cool. Shaynis 420 has a question for you, a little bit more of a strategy question. Wants to know, Max, when I'm on the bubble phase of a tournament, when should I pick my spots to try and increase my stack in order to last until, make it through the bubble?
Okay, so I didn't understand. When you are already on the bubble phase?
So meaning the bubble is approaching and he wants to make it into the money. At what point does he take his chances in order to make it, for sure that he can make it into the money?
So I believe everything changes depending on your stack. When you are, let's say that they're paying 15% and you're 20% away. Everything changes at that point. You have to understand if your stack has enough chips to dominate, so you might be the one picking on the other players. Or it might be a medium stack. So if you're a medium stack, you don't want to make mistakes.
Right.
Because if you make mistake and you go lower, then you might have not enough chips to be aggressive and not enough chip to waste. So then if you're small, then it becomes a trouble, but it's also easier. Pick your right spot to try to not even double up, just to chip up, to go up enough to show the bubble. Who to attack? It's easy. I mean, it's easy, but it's tricky. The players that they never fold, then okay, you can never fold yourself. If you get 2 10s against a player that raises all the time, 2 9s, that's the perfect moment to move in against him.
Right.
Ace king is trickier, but of course you're obligated. Ace queen, ace jack are different. Now, if we're talking to hold'em, in pot limit Omaha, even worse, it's different even more. I like limping a lot when I have a middle stack in pot limit Omaha because nobody can isolate you. And even if they do isolate you, you have enough blinds to do whatever you want later.
Sure.
So it really depends on your game, your confidence, the players, etc. But let's say you have 12 blinds and the big blind is an extremely tight 99-year-old poker player. Well, maybe move in against him.
Yeah.
That's a good spot because probably he will not call unless he has a really good hand.
Good advice there. Here's one from Nasty Bent Gorilla wants to know, do you have a favorite card game which is not related to poker? Any other card game that you play?
Oh, that's a good question. So in Italy, we play, which I haven't played in a long time, but we play Scopa or Scopone, which is a game. It's kind of a complicated game, but one of the games is you play couples, and you play with a deck of 40 cards. So there is no 10, 9, 8. So it's ace through 7 and then pitchers. And it's a game where there is a lot of strategy of what you have. The ace, it's like a joker. You scoop every card that there is in the middle. So you put down the card and then you play that. Recently Burraco was kind of fun because I don't know if it's even known. Burraco is a game.
I'm not familiar with that, no.
Very popular game in Italy. And they have all kinds of Burraco websites where you can play for money. So that was like a game that I played for a bit. But I guess Scopa is the one that kind of my youth. We played that. I went to Catholic school, so we played that with priests will play with us. So it was, and parents would come and play. So it was my first trophy was in Scopa. Me and my father against another, dad and son, and I was 7-year-old. We finished second.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Here's one from Goggleheimer. It's a name I've never seen before. Thanks for submitting this question. Max, how much study time do you invest to progress in poker? How much study time?
Close to zero.
Really? Wow.
I don't spend any time progressing. I'm someone that if I was a football player, I do not want to train. I just want to go on the field and play every day. But I do not want to train. It's a bad thing for me. For sure, I could improve. But I do all kinds of other things. I just don't have the will of time. If I'm not playing, I don't want to think about the game. Because anyway, when you play, it's kind of a training because you watch the players that they're good. You watch the moves. Sometimes you talk about them. So, I have like times where I have to take out poker from my head, and so I try a little bit to look at GTO, but it was just not for me. And I rather just play and train.
Interesting. I think that's very eye-opening. It's a very eye-opening answer because it just goes to show, folks, you can be plenty successful even without studying if you've got good game. And
but I did study before.
It's fair.
It's not like as I said it in the previous interview, there is some books that you need to read and do well.
Sure,
they will help you to do well. But at the same time, I watch Twitch every once in a while. I guess there is some Twitchers that I might watch them a little bit.
Okay.
But that's about it. I tried actually to Twitch for a while, but I couldn't get the numbers the way I wanted. So I say, let's forget it. And that was interesting because actually that will help, because when you Twitch, there is people that say, why didn't you do that? Well, I think that would be better they actually help you improve too.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that's a way that people might, that I would advise for someone to do.
Right. It doesn't have to always be memorizing charts or something. There's different
No,
ways
no,
to
no,
study,
yeah.
for sure.
And by the way, charts, they're different. I know that now they're starting with charts and Pub Limit Omaha, but I play mostly games. They don't have a Razz chart yet.
Thank God. A Razz chart. Oh God. No.
Yeah,
No,
GT or Razz.
Oh man, it's tough enough as it is. Zoro222 has an interesting question. Where is your favorite place to play poker?
I mean, in Las Vegas, that's what I like to play. It depends on where my game is. It used to be Mirage, then it moved to Bellagio, then we moved to the Wynn. I mean, Bellagio was for so many years my office to go to play every day, every evening, every night. So then it kind of changed. Now there is a different game. Now we're playing a Resort World. So I kind of had to follow the games that I like.
Okay.
But in Vegas, in general, is my place to play. Yet I went to Europe many times and played in France, London, and that's also places that I like. Victoria of London used to be a place that I spent a summer and then go on the Vic. Cool. And it was a place that I like to go on. So.
Good choices. Acid Burn FX has one. Oh, I like this one. I mean, I like all of them. Which poker rule would you change if it was up to you, and why?
Ooh.
It's a good one.
Okay. It's a good one, and I guess I will have to think about it for a long time. Of course, if it was possible, but it's not possible, I would probably put a clock in every game ever, at least in No Limit. Wow. Because one of the biggest things that people hate the most, it's having the clock, not having a clock, so someone can think about it forever. I mean, recently I saw a tweet, I don't remember of who, but there was this professional that went, he was playing like a really high limit too. So he's thinking, they called a clock on him, he check raise. Now, already, I think that's a rule that we can talk about. We see, while I talk, your rules will come out. Sure. First of all, I suggest that. I say, if someone call a clock on you, you should never be able to check raise. Now, count that I come from a game which you have to raise immediately, or you can only call.
Okay.
So think about it. If you have 3 minutes to think about it, why do you have to raise now? You can either call. It's okay. You can. It doesn't make much sense. Yeah. No. And this guy, what he did was 3 minutes. They call a clock on him. He check raise. The guy call. Then he check. The guy bet again, and they went on time 3 minutes, and then he check raise again.
Again, twice.
And they're like, okay, so now you're doing it on purpose.
So how can you think that a professional or non-professional has the time to, or specifically will do, wait that you call the clock to then check raise you? It's something extremely bad. So I come from a game, and we talked about it in the other interview, where draw game, you can either you raise right away or you cannot raise. Even in Spain, they used to have this game that I used to play at Casino Barcelona called Poker Sintético. Same thing. You have to raise immediately or you cannot raise.
Right.
Talking about 5 seconds, 10-second maximum. But then if not, someone can say, no, you waited too much, and they rule that you cannot raise. So the same thing. If there is a rule change that they should have, is someone calls a clock on you, you cannot raise anymore.
Right.
Of course, optimal, if you cannot change a rule, having a clock in every game. So with the dealer touches and you have 30 seconds, but it's hard to do that when you have 6,000 people in a tournament.
Of course.
So it's very difficult. It's very good different training for dealers. So I would put up that rule, and I think there is no drawback on that rule, because there is no excuses for someone to wait for you that you call a clock and then check raise you. If you saw something, well, too bad. You should have seen it earlier.
Right, and it affects all players equally. It's not against one specific player.
Exactly,
so, yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. We've got 3 more people who sent in questions. Burmejoga, thank you very much for sending this in. Wants to know, Max, what do you like to do to get your mind away from poker?
I mean, I like gambling in general. So I always, for a while, I had a stable in Italy with like almost 10 horses, and that's where I spent all the money of the first 2 bracelets. So I had to win more to get to break even with those. I like this game. It's a fantasy NFT game. So because I love watching football and I love sports in general, this game, which is called So Rare.
The shirt that you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, the shirt that I wear, that I wore this summer. This guy came out with a concept, this French company came out with a concept of that you buy an NFT, and the NFT is licensed by a football company. So you buy an NFT of a player, and then once you own the NFT, you play tournaments for free where they put up money. In crypto or other NFTs. So I've always been kind of against NFTs in general, because to me, unless you buy something extremely important of an art that become a unique NFT, it's very hard to put a price on anybody that has monkeys with different colors. What are you going to do with it? I mean, I understand the concept of being in a club, maybe. So, but very few have a value. I like the ones that have a value where you play. Coming from video games, to me, if EA Sports will come up that you buy an NFT and then you can play it in the game, then it's good.
Right.
So this company did that, and then you buy these NFTs, and it's a lot of strategy, like how to play them, they perform, you can buy them, sell them, and things like that. So that takes a lot of time, and a lot of time off my poker game. So I watch games, and also when I'm bored, I do that while I'm in a poker game, which is not optimal because I don't look at other players, but at least my gambling part doesn't come out. I want to play every hand, so I can just sit tight with my stack and do something else.
That's balancing your attention ranges. That's very good. Okay. So we've got Chica Bonita wants to know, who do you consider your poker idol?
Okay, first of all, give me the phone number of Chica Bonita, and just in case she has other questions. So my poker idol, I mean, it's hard to name one in general. It's very hard to point out one person, but there have been favorite players that they kind of changed through my career. I can tell you, since he's from your country, Eliel Extra to me has the most interesting game of the last few years. There was a big deal when me and him got nominated the same year into the Hall of Fame, and we had the chance to enter in the Hall of Fame. And I remember that Daniel talked so bad about him and me in a way that, and we kind of became friends then, because it was absurd. First of all, I knew how good he was. And so, I mean, there was different reasons, whatever, but, I really liked the way he plays. So I can't say he's my idol, but I respect extremely his game. I think he's a monster in many ways. Then there is other ones like of my country, although he's Australian, but he's also, Italian origins. Jeffrey Lisandro, which
Sure.
never gets named in the Poker Hall of Fame, but it's crazy. He has 6 bracelets.
Yep.
In one summer, he won stud high-low, Razz, and stud at the same time.
The stud sweep,
And
I remember that.
It was crazy. And really, he has a very interesting game. I spoke to him this summer. He's not as at the top of the game that where he was a few years ago.
Mhm.
But, things happen in life. And so, you might not be at the top. You might go back to the top.
Mhm.
I mean, arguably, I'm not at the top either since the summer
Mhm.
that I had. So, things happen. Cards are weird. And so those are 2 players that I like to mention because of the respect that I have, especially in the games where I consider myself good.
Mhm.
And I think they're monsters in both.
Very
of them.
cool.
So,
Very cool. And our final question for you, Max, comes from Baloo 1982. Who do you consider to be the toughest player who you've played against in recent years?
well, they're kind of similar to the question before,
Perhaps.
in a way.
Maybe someone who's held over you at the poker table. You can't seem to get them.
Let me name a different player,
Okay.
which I always thought, which I actually was proud. One of my 2 rings was a heads-up match against him in a small tournament at Harris, Michael Mizrachi, which I haven't seen this summer. Yeah, the grinder. He has a game that is completely different than others in mixed game, and yet he was able to win the big 50K 2 times,
3 times.
3 times. 3 times. It's absurd for the way that he plays, but because he has a particular way to approach the game. So, as I have to say, I actually did beat him heads up in no limit, which is crazy. But I love the way he played, and when I faced him, I always feel different. There was other 2 to mention, which I always thought they were extremely good and weird. David Benjamin, he didn't come this year. He was really good for a long time. He also has a game that it just bothers me. It looks like kind of I don't match up with him well.
Right.
And Scott Seaver is another one that is extremely good for some reason too. He kind of sees through me in certain situations.
Interesting.
And we're talking about stud or stud high-low. So like with Scott Seaver, I'm not afraid to gamble with him because I cannot get in a situation where he holds over me. So if he comes at the game, I have no problem taking a 45% against him in any spot, or even a 42. Why? Because I rather eliminate him and not having him at the table than maybe he makes all kinds of move against me.
Interesting stuff. Some really tough players there. Folks, thank you very much for sending in your questions for Max Pescatori. And again, a friendly reminder to all of you out there in the Cards Chat community, we would love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Max, you've given us so much of your time. Thank you. We appreciate it. Before we let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to tell our audience before we let you go?
I mean, it was fun, easy, and it was a pleasure.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Thank you. Folks, thanks again for tuning in to the Community Questions segment here on the Cards Chat YouTube channel. I'm Robbie Straczynski, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community.